clear. In this session, I want to go into depth of plans and documents of entire PMP. That is the purpose of this session, right? We'll start with the agile. They are quickly documents, and as we do, we'll try to make this session as interactive as possible. So please turn your videos on so that I can know you're with me. You are traveling. Can I call your name of things of those nature? So please turn your videos on so that I can see you. Okay, and well, we'll start with the agile documents and the documents that we use in agile. Then we'll move towards the predictive. And we will go to the book of forms, those documents that you already have. You can have understanding of those plans and those documents. Okay. So starting with agile, I would say we'll move from the agile and then take it from there on. Okay. So what is the first document we discuss in the agile? What is the first document that we discuss in the agile? The first and the most important document is product backlog. Okay. What is a product backlog? Put in the chat box, everybody. What is a product backlog? Straightforward. What is a product backlog? Product backlog. What is a product backlog? What's a product backlog? Product black backlog is list of prioritized user stories. List of prioritized user stories. Okay, what do I mean by prioritize user story? This means those user stories have been prioritized by us. Those user stories have been already made important to that. Those user stories have been made in a way that we can use it into that way. Okay, product backlog is prioritized into that way. Okay, these items need from high value, high risk. Okay, list of user stories, list of user stories, high value, high risk. High risk. What is sprint backlog? What is sprint backlog? What is sprint backlog? Sprint backlog is the user stories. Sprint backlog is the user stories that we have taken from the product backlog. We have taken from the product backlog, and now we are going to focus on that sprint. Only for that sprint. You see, product backlog is for the entire project. Sprint backlog is only for that pattern sprint. Sprint 1 will have their own sprint backlog. Sprint 2 will have their own sprint backlog. Sprint 3, Sprint 4, Sprint 5, and so on. Okay. Anywhere anyone is confused, feel free to ask me. So sprint backlog will be done on the estimation of how much work a team can do in one sprint, which is of course called velocity of the sprint. Okay. Which is of course called velocity of. So every sprint will have a new sprint backlog. Okay, sprint backlog. Every sprint will have a new sprint backlog. Then we have product increment. We have product increment. What is product increment? Product increment, whatever get accepted in the users. When at the end of the sprint, whatever get accepted, it goes into the product increment. Whatever you do and it get accepted, it goes into the product increment. Clear to everybody? Product backlog, sprint backlog, product increment. Whatever you need to do for the entire project is in the product backlog. Then sprint backlog is a subset of product backlog. What you have to do in this sprint. Product increment, whatever get accepted is product increment. These are the three major documents that we use in our agile. Then there are other things in agile. I can say them as information radiators. Okay. And burn down chart, it shows how much work is remaining. How much work is remaining in the project. Burn down chart shows us. Burn up chart, burn up chart shows that how much work has been done. How much work has been done. Burn up chart shows that. Then we use Task board, also known as status board. The purpose of the task board or the status board is to show the current status of the project. What is the current status of the project? It is showing you that task board. Okay. Then we have Kanban board. Kanban board, the purpose of a Kanban board is just like a task board, but it identified work in progress limit. It identifies work in progress limit. Okay, work in progress limit. It is established to build a flow in the system. It is established to do things of those nature. Okay, this is basically how we understand these things. This helps you to go to a little bit into depth of the PMP. This helps you to understand the basics of that. Now put in the chat box what is product backlog, sprint backlog, product increment, burn up, burn down chart, task board, Kanban board. You have 1 minute, please, immediately, then we will move forward. What is that? Please put in the chat box immediately. And everybody, please put it. Don't wait for other people to put it. You put it so that we can move ahead. Product backlog, sprint backlog, product increment. Okay. Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Okay, everyone. So if user stories are rejected, where the user story will go? If the user stories are rejected, where the user story will go? The user stories are rejected, where the user stories will go? That's an important question. If user stories are rejected, they goes back to the product back. Once the sprint is over, what about the sprint backlog? Once the sprint is over, what about the sprint backlog? What happened to the sprint backlog? Sprint backlog is done. Now we have a next sprint backlog. Okay, so this is basically how it moves. Then we have other things also in Agile, like for example, definition of done, definition of ready, acceptance criteria. Put in the chat box what are they and how they are valuable. Everyone, what is definition of ready, definition of done, and acceptance criteria? What are they and what they do they mean for us? Definition of ready, definition of done, and acceptance criteria. What are they? What does that mean? There also you can consider them as a checklist, right? We can consider them as a checklist in our project. So what are they? What does they mean? Definition of ready, definition of done, and acceptance criteria. New sprint block backlog created. Mohsen, please put in the chat box. Azam, Danis, Arundeep, and everyone else, please turn your videos on. You give me energy when I see your beautiful faces. As I said it before, even if you are not, if you don't consider you are beautiful, I still do. So please turn your videos on. Please turn your videos on. I love to see you. It gives me more energy. Definition of ready is basically the list of the things. Definition of ready is a list of things you look at. It's a checklist you look before you start doing any work. Okay, before you start doing any work, you are looking at it to make sure you can even start that. For example, when I started this class, I turned my screen on, I turned my iPad on, I make sure I have tea, right? Interestingly, I am working for from 6 a.m. It's 12 for me. Before the class, this is interesting today. I took a nap of 15 minutes so that I am fresh for you guys, right? I am fresh for you guys. So what I was doing, it's a definition of ready. That when I am gonna deliver something, Do I have the tools, techniques to be even ready there, right? Do I have those things to make sure that I am even ready there or not, right? That is basically your definition of ready. Making sure that everything that you are gonna do is available there to start the work. That is definition of ready. The next is definition of done. So when you have completed the work, you make sure, okay, this is what we agreed into it and that has been completed. That is what your definition of done. That is your definition of done. Okay, definition of ready, definition of done. They are clear to you guys. Both are important, both are critical, but they have different purpose into that. Okay, now comes the next thing, acceptance criteria. What is an acceptance criteria? Acceptance criteria is basically the checklist which customer has and the customer checks it from it. Okay, the customer has that checklist and customer check it, is it completed or not completed? Clear to everybody, right? So definition of ready, definition of done, acceptance criteria. All our checklist, all our documents that we use to complete it. Anyone has any question, confusion, feel free to stop me in between. Then we discussed other artifact can be like product, project vision, MVP, a story map. What is a story map? How you are gonna make your minimum viable product? No, it's not based on a scope baseline, Dennis. Baseline is predictive. This is agile. The, when we say baseline, that is scope baseline. It's a part of the project management plan. Okay, that is predictive. Whereas definition of ready, definition of done, acceptance criteria is in agile. Okay. Hmm. These are the important documents that we need to know for agile. Now let's go to the predictive. Predictive, we know that how the normally life cycle starts. Need assessment, business case, benefit management plan. Okay, these are the pre-project activity. So let's discuss what is a benefit management plan. Benefit management plan has your intangible benefit in the project. What are the intangible benefit? Right? Brand, recognition, things of those nature. Intangible thing. You cannot directly measure it, right? You just see it how the things work into that. How much people knows you, things of those nature. Intangible benefit. You make a assumption, you do make a KPI metrics for that also. That when I say I'm gonna measure it, how I'm going to measure that? I make sure that I also measure those things. Intangible benefit. When we talk about the business case is money. Straightforward. ROI, return on investment. It's talk about return on investment. It talk about cost of, okay? What is the cost? What are the benefits of the project? It talks about that. Okay. Very important thing, business case. You see, 99% of the time we do a project for to increase our revenue. We do a project to increase some tangible benefit, right? 99% of the time. So business case is the most critical document in your project. But I call them pre-project activity. They happen normally before the project, not in the project, basically before the project business case. Okay. Business value is basically combination of uh, tangible and intangible. Okay. So business value consists of tangible and both intangible. If I put business value, that is business case plus benefit management plan, both combines give us the business value for the project, right? That is your business value, Nabil. Now, these are the two documents that should be known. They are before the initiation of the project. I call them as a pre-project activity because they are before even the project start. Okay, before even the project start, pre-project activities. Then the project start. What are the five process group of the project? What are the five process group of the project? Do we measure best project? Yes, that is NPV, IRR, ROI. All these things are the part of the business case, and we put this in the part of the business case thing. Okay, initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, and closing. And also put what happens in initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, and closing if you can. What happened there? When we talk about initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, and closing. Initiation has three things. Project charter, which start the project, assumption log, we will discuss them, stakeholder register, okay, and planning. Today we will go through process group wise. Whenever we study through knowledge areas, right? We study stakeholder communication, team, risk, right? We do that way. We have done that in the class, but now we are gonna do in different way. Initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, and closing. Clear to everybody? Okay, we'll go through those documents and see how those documents basically help. So, by the way, you already have those documents. Just to let you know, all of you all of you already have those documents with you in the Google Sheet. If you don't know how I'm accessing those sheets, okay, the template that I'm gonna show you now, these are the templates in your Google Sheet. Okay. Initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, and closing. All these templates, one more time, whichever your batch is, if you, let's say, I just opened batch 3 here, it was opened before, but I requested this, for example. So let's say this is batch 3 or batch 4. Let me go to batch 4. Okay, you are batch 4, you have this tracker sheet, you go to video link, if you scroll in the end, in the overall area, you do see that initiation, planning, all of them. So you can download those template if you want. Otherwise, if you are unable to download, let me know. I will just see into that. Asif sir, please, if you can mute yourself, sir. Okay.
Sir,
Mute yourself. Mute yourself. Please mute yourself. Okay. So these are the templates that we will be going to show. Okay, what is the project charter? Can somebody tell me? Put in the chat box, please. Okay. So going back to that, initiation, planning, execution, we were discussing that in initiation, we have three documents, right? In initiation, we have three documents: project charter, assumption log, and stakeholder register. Let's discuss them one by one now. Now, the most simplest one or the first one is project charter. Project charter is a high level document that talks about what is the title of the project, who is the sponsor, one person sponsor, who is the project manager, why we are even doing the project, what is the description, what are the key requirements, high level requirements, high level risk of the project, what is the scope of the project at a high level way, what is the cost of the project, right? What is the, like, maybe other parameters if you want to measure key milestones. Milestones are significant points in the project. We discuss about what are the key milestones in the project we need to measure and what things are there into that. Okay. Estimated budget. Who are the key stakeholder here? This is an interesting thing here. Key stakeholders are already identified and mentioned here in the project charter, which means if there is something we should discuss with the stakeholders about their roles and responsibility. Okay, then who can make authority about it? Like this will actually give you, are you working in a functional organizational, which organization you are working, right? Then the approval, who is going to sign? Normally, it is signed by governance, board members, or minimum sponsor and the project manager. Project manager must sign the charter, even he comes later on in the organization, because he has accepted that I'm gonna do it. Rashid sir, does that make sense to you? I can see you are enjoying the drive, but does that make sense to you, sir? That he must be signed, he must have signed the charter. Even if he comes later on, he need to sign it to make sure that thing. Okay, this is your project charter. Any question on the project charter? Anyone, any question on the project charter? Feel free to ask. Hmm. Then next, Documents in initiation is assumption and constraint log. Assumption is anything we assume that this may or may not happen, just like risk. But assumption is always considered negative. Okay, if this happen, this can damage in the project. We have to basically make few assumptions for the project. If we don't do the assumptions, we cannot move. For example, I planned this class. I made that assumption you will join the class. Yes or no? If nobody showed, whom I will be teaching? By the way, I had classes. I had only one student. I did taught. But let's say if nobody joined, okay. So whom I will be teaching there? That was an assumption, na, that you will join the class, right? You will join the class. So assumption, we put it in the assumption log. We define who will be handling it. Dennis will handle it. Muhammad Asif will handle it. Who will be handling that assumption? Then when to review that? What are the actions to handle? Status and of course the comment. That's an assumption. Then the second part is constraint. Constraint is anything that limits your project, that limits your project, that limits you. Scope is a constraint. Like if we talk about scope, schedule, cost, they are called as triple constraints of the project. Triple constraints of the project. Okay. But quality is a constraint, risk is a constraint, procurement is a constraint. All these are constraints in the project. Okay. Mavish is saying we also define the roles and responsibility. Yeah, a kickoff meeting normally, Mavish, happen once the project management plan is ready. Once the project management plan is ready, then the kickoff meeting happens, sister. Okay, the charter is basically when you get the charter, one of your responsibilities to share with the key stakeholder so that they don't go on vacations or they are not aware about that. Okay, are we cleared about assumption and constraint log? All 40 people, I need to put yes or no in the chat box. If you have any question, please ask. Yeah. Now comes Now comes the most important part of that. We identify the stakeholder. We identify the stakeholder. We analyze them upward. Now we are going to prioritize them using power interest matrix. Who has, guys, this get confused sometime. See which column like has power and which column has interest. Okay. Don't try to memorize it. See which column has power and which column has interest. For example, power is here, high power, low power, low interest, high interest. So this becomes high power, high interest. This becomes low power, high interest, high power, low interest, low power, low interest. High power, high interested people are the most important people of your project. We manage them closely. These people we put in the watch list. Person who has high power, low interest. What do we do about them? The persons who have high power, low interest, what do we do about them? Thank you, Deva. We keep them satisfied. As if somebody is your boss, maybe your boss, he has power, but he does not has interest, but Asif is doing it. Even if you meet him one time, you need to satisfy him, right? It makes sense, na? Okay. No, don't inform him. He is not interested, women Paris. He has high power, he's not interested. Important thing. You don't keep on sharing those information. Like for example, I'll give you an example. Your CEO come to your organization and you start giving him the nitty gritty. He's not interested into that, right? Those people, they have low power, high interest. Keep them informed. Even keep them informed. Okay. High power, this graph, we have seen in many in previous coaching that you students are receiving direct question about this graph. Okay. Direct question about this graph. This graph is clear to everybody. You can have power this side or interest this side. You just need to see where is high power, high interest, where is high power, low interest, things of those nature. जी 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 बिल्कुल it is. Everyone is clear into that, Nabil? Put in the chat box, guys. I need to be more interactive here. Yeah, Dennis. Okay. Okay, okay, okay. Let's go to the next thing. Now, one of the most important document in our project is stakeholder register. Stakeholder is anyone who has a stake in the project. So we need to manage them closely. The purpose of this prioritization matrix, this is power interest matrix. This prioritization matrix is to identify the priority of the stakeholders. Now, once we have the priority of the stakeholders, we need to see how we can engage them. For them, we need to document them. Who is the stakeholder? What's his position? Right? What is his role? Basic information. This is the basic information. But here comes the interesting thing. What does he need? Maybe expectations. His power, interest. Where do you put into that? Okay, kind of important. Stakeholder register, very critical for the project. Every project has its own stakeholder register and they must be updated throughout the project. Okay, they must be updated throughout the project. They must be looked into the project and we need to see how we can engage all the stakeholders in our projects. Okay, now comes the most comprehensive part of the PMP, planning. Good to have you, server. Planning will have, of course, all the things there. Okay, so which is the first plan we make? Which is the first plan we make? Any guesses here? Deva is saying stakeholder engagement plan. Anyone else? Stake. Arundeep, project management plan is made in the end. Drishti, it's made in the end. It's because it's a combination of all the plans. Now, how can you get it approved? Stakeholder engagement plan is the first thing. You identify the stakeholder, you make the stakeholder register, and now you make a stakeholder engagement plan. Okay, now you make a stakeholder engagement plan. Okay, so let's go with the stakeholder engagement plan. So a very important thing that we have in the stakeholder engagement plan is the stakeholder engagement matrix. Is the server sub project scope statement is basically the scope of the project. It's a detailed scope of the project. You make it once you have uh, collected the requirements using requirement management plan. Put it in the requirement traceability, that is done. Requirement documentation, that is done. Then you make the scope management plan. Then you get the project scope statement. Risk register is done very late after the risk management plan. Stakeholder engagement plan is the first plan we make. Stakeholder engagement plan, the first plan we make. So once you have made the stakeholder engagement plan, once you make the stakeholder register, which has who is the stakeholder, what is their purpose. Okay, now we go and make stakeholder engagement plan. It will talk about the who is the stakeholder, what is his current engagement level, what is his current engagement level. Is he unaware about you? Is he resistant about you? Or is he neutral about you? And then what do you desire? What do you desire? Do you mean what does the project desire? Maybe someone is unaware of you. You want him to be neutral. Someone is resistant to you. You want him to be supportive. Someone is neutral. You want him to stay there. Whatever is needed in the project, we put it into the stakeholder engagement plan. Okay. We put in the stakeholder engagement plan and we put the strategies that will be required to engage these stakeholders. What are the strategies that you will be needing to engage these stakeholders? We'll put that into the stakeholder engagement plan. Now, if your organization does not have a communication plan, you can have a communication need, method, frequency here. Otherwise, we will put the communication management plan. Okay. So stakeholder engagement plan have this thing, stakeholder engagement matrix, then approach, or I like to say is strategies that are required to engage the stakeholder. Strategies that are required to engage the stakeholders. What are the strategies you are going to use? Next come the most important plan, communication plan. I call it as a 4 hour of communication. What does 4 hour stands for? Put in the chat box, guys. What does 4 hour stands for? Farooq, mute yourself, please, kindly. What does 4R stands for? Right information, right information, right time, right method, right people, having that information, providing the information that is needed according to the project requirement. Right information at right time to right people to have right impact. That is your 4R of communication. Who is the stakeholder? Who is he? What information he needs? How I'm gonna give him the information? When he needs the information. Guys, this is two things, timing or frequency, right? Timing is when he needs. Frequency, how many times? How many times? Who is gonna send that information? Now, if your project has some confidential information, that should be mentioned. Assumptions, very important thing. In assumption, we need to assume the cultural and political awareness part. How you are gonna assume, right? What are the cultural things I need to understand? What are the political things I need to know? For example, constraint. When I'm talking now in the session, there are male and there is female with me session, different culture, different things. I need to use the body language in a way that is not harsh to any. Does that make sense to everybody? Na? I need to use that tone that is not harsh to everybody. Okay, that delivers the message and that is not harsh to everyone. That's a very important thing. How I'm gonna work into that, how I'm gonna make sure that right information is being shared with you, right? Right information is being shared with you along the way. Okay, communication management plan. Okay, grocery. Now, grocery is basically economy. Like, for example, I continuously write EF. What does EF stands for? What does OPS stand for? Then I put it PC. What does project charter stands for? Now you have studied with me, you know, when I write these words, what does that mean? Okay. So that is acronymy, acronyms or glossary that we mentioned it. In any book, they put at the end of that terms to explain what does that mean. Okay. So we have discussed stakeholder plan, communication plan. Anyone has any question, please feel free to ask. Please feel free to ask. Then sometime it is called as human resource management plan. Sometime it is called as straightforward resource management plan. Or some author even said it team or staff management plan. All means the same, how you are going to manage your team. The purpose of this plan is this, how you are going to acquire the team, acquire your resources, like get the resources, which resources you need, what type of skills you need, virtual resources, physical resources, what type of resources do you need in your project. Okay, how you are going to acquire them. Then once you acquire them, how you are going to develop them, like identifying the training needs requirement, right? Providing the training, doing it, individual trainings versus overall training, how you are going to acquire the resources, how you are going to develop the resources, how you are going to manage the resources, those conflict management, how you are going to do that. And finally, how you are going to release the resources. Because that's another topic that we need to see. As our project managers, we need to see how we are going to acquire the resources, develop the resources, manage them, and finally release those resources. Clear to everybody, right? So this is, then we have RAM in it. Who is responsible for something? And of course, RACI. What does RAM and RACI stands for? Put in the chat box, guys. What does RAM and RACI stands for? What does RAM and RACI stands for? The RACI stands for responsible, accountable, consult, inform. RAM stand for responsibility assignment matrix. Who is responsible, whom to account, whom to consult, whom to inform, right? So we put that into the, then your organizational structure. What type of structures we discussed in our organization? We have matrix organization, we have functional organization, we have projectized organization. In matrix, we have weak matrix, balanced matrix, strong matrix, right? And then which type of organizational chart we have, who is boss and whom you are answering. The organizational structure can be a part of that. So RAM is updated if resources. Yes, of course, RAM is updated throughout the project. And RAM is one of the documents that we will discuss that does not need a change request. Okay. How you are gonna get the same thing, how you are gonna acquire the resources. Okay. Your resource calendar. Resource calendar is a part of it. When the resources will be coming, when the resources will be leaving, what are the training requirements? Very important thing. Rewards and recognition. You need to understand the culture before you provide the rewards and recognition. Some safety requirements, policy compliance requirement. Who has the now you see authority, responsibility, qualification. What type of resources is needed? Okay, requirements. That is your resource management plan. So we discussed so far stakeholder plan, communication plan, team plan. Before that, we discussed agile. Anyone has any confusion as of? They are clear to you? Yes, Zaki.
Sir, can you hear me? Yeah. So I just want to ask, PM is coordinator and expediter. In which one is which one? Weak and strong.
One is expeditor in the uh, functional, organizational, and coordinator in the weak matrix.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Uh, no, we haven't discussed the team chart. When it will come, we'll discuss it. Okay. Let's discuss all the documents from there. Then whatever is missing, I will be explaining all them. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So RBS, resource breakdown structure. What type of resources do you have? Like when we talk about RBS, resource breakdown structures. Okay. So there are four type of resources: manpower, human, machinery, money, material. Human, which type of resources we have? Technical resources. Those technical resources, those drivers may be, those kitchen staff. So resource breakdown structure is basically moving down with that, just like WBS moving down with putting into that. Okay. Acha ji. The next plan is risk management plan. The next plan is risk management plan. So what is a risk? Risk is an uncertain event that may or may not happen at any time. Okay, we identify it, but in the risk management plan, very important, there are no risk in it. It does not have risk in it. It defines, what does it has? It defines the methodology, how you are going to identify the risk, who has roles and responsibility, how you are going to categorize the risk. Are they political risk, economical risk, social risk, technical risk? How you are going to categorize the risk? It will have that thing. Okay. It will have how you are going to fund the risk, like what, how you're going to give those contingency and management reserves, how contingencies will be handled when you are going to review the risk management plan, risk report, like when you are going to do audit. Very important. Risk, stakeholder risk appetite, risk tolerance, those things will be there. How you are going to track and audit the process. Then definition of this. This is what does very high mean? What does low mean? What does medium mean? This is defined in the risk management plan, which we are going to use later on in the qualitative risk assessment. It is defined in the risk management plan. Now comes the risk register. Risk register is a comprehensive one document which has all the risk. Organization may have the risk according to their requirement. Okay, so like for example, starting with this risk ID means the number of the risk, what risk statement, what actually risk is, what is the probability of that, and if that happen, will it impact scope, quality? It could have other impact also: scope, quality, schedule, cost, how it are gonna handle it. Okay, so when this should be here in one column: scope, quality, schedule, cost. Okay, it should be here. What is a risk score? Risk score means probability into impact. When you multiply, what do you get? What are the response? How you are gonna handle it? Okay. So when you put the response, what is the revised probability and impact? Revised score. Okay. Who is responsible to handle it? What are the actions? Status, comment. It could even have residual risk and secondary risk in it. Okay. Whatever you need for that, it can be as a part of it. Clear to everybody? Risk management plan, risk register. Now, risk data sheet, that's normally not used in most of the project. It is basically used uh, as a, like you can say, in the organization, put it there. So if you identify any risk, you give it to that as a form of this data sheet. This become the part of risk report later on, overall risk into that. Next comes the quality management plan. Quality is what customer pays for. So what does quality management plan has? Quality management plan has what are the roles and responsibilities of the people who are going to handle the quality. Guys, notice one thing. All the plans have roles and responsibility. But in the exam, if there's a question, you want to see who is responsible for this thing, who is responsible for any pattern thing. What will be your answer? Put in the chat box. No, Hamad, no. PM will look RASI or RAM. That's the purpose of there. Sam, RASI or RAM. That's why we specifically like take all the information from all these plan Mohsin Saab and put it into that. That if something bad happened, this is a document that we use, RASI metrics, so that we don't have to go to plans every single time to look into that. No, server. Server, I guess you need the entire PMP training one more time. The answers which you are saying, it shows that you have forget 90% of the things, man. Right? You need to review the things. This needs improvement. So that's why I asked you guys to put in the chat box. I can read it. Which quality approach we are gonna do? Are we gonna use plan, do, check, act, or are we gonna use Six Sigma approach, which is supplier, input, process, output, customer? Which approach we are gonna use? Okay. How we are gonna do quality assurance, quality control, how we are gonna do the entire quality things will be mentioned here. Which tools we can use? What are the tools of quality, guys? Can you put me in the chat box the name of the tools of quality? Or we can go one by one. Let's go with this. What is Pareto principle? Immediately put in the chat box, guys. Everyone, all 40 of you, please put in the chat box. What is Pareto principle? Please type 80-20, 80-20. It's a prioritization principle which shows the most important thing. Okay, let's go with that. Pareto principle, 20-80 principle, right? Prioritize. What does control chart means? Control chart. What's a control chart? Control chart have upper limit, control limit. This is used to control process. This is used to control the process. Identify anything goes out of the normal, identify the problem into that. What is a scatter diagram? I can see your Rashid, your face. You are thinking what was a scatter diagram word? It identifies relationship between two variables. You can say regression analysis also, but the purpose is identify dependencies between two variables. What is fishbone diagram? Identify the root cause analysis, why we use it into that. What is flowchart? It shows the sequence of the process. Step 1, step 2, step 3. What is sampling? What is sampling? Sampling, we identify the sample into that. What is inspection? Inspection. We go and check something. What is audit? Audit, this is checking the deliverables. Audit is checking the effectiveness of a process. Is our process effective or not? Okay. How do we check? Are we following the plan or not? You can have quality audit, procurement audit, risk audit. Okay. And what else is left? Any tool that I missed? Sampling. Did I miss any tool? Checklist. Yes, thank you, sir. What is checklist? It shows sequence. Then check sheets. Check sheets shows things are present there or not, how many defects. Histogram. Defects is not a tool here. Sequence of it. Thank you, Farooq. Trend chart shows trend of the process. Let's go one more time with, I guess, 12 tools. Any other tools we missed here? Any other tool that we missed? No? Okay. So one more time, we'll go through this 12 tools. Yes, trend chart, I put it there. Okay, 12 tools. One more time. The purpose why I'm going through it, how many of you get challenged in the quality tool? You get the challenge, no? Right? I'm getting challenge here. I'm thinking which tool is there. So for sure, you get challenged. So these 12 tools, okay, let's go one more time with one word so that we can immediately remember what does that mean. Make sense to everybody? Right? Let's go one more time. Okay. So Pareto principle is 80-20 principle. It is used for prioritization. It means what are the most important thing and how we looked into that. Simple Pareto principle is 80-20 principle, vital few, trivial many. What are the most important thing and what are the not important thing that much. Control chart, it shows that process is within the control limit or it is out of the control limit. We look into that through the control chart. Are we within the process or we are not in the process? Okay. Scatter diagram, also known as correlationship diagram, it identifies the relationship between two variables, x and y. If I increase x, will y will increase, decrease, or will have no impact. Then flow chart shows the sequence of process, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, things like that. Then fishbone diagram, also known as root cause analysis, YY diagram, is used to identify the real problem in it. Sampling, when we want to collect from the large data, we use sampling. We missed here data and survey sheet. Surveys are used to collect data from large people. When we want to collect data from large people, we use surveys. Okay, we did not write it there. Inspection, when I go and check any deliverable physical, that does that meet the requirement or not, we use inspection. Audit is to checking that are we following the plan or not. Effectiveness of the process, we do audit in quality, risk, and procurement. Checklist shows the sequence of step. This is there, this is not there. Check sheets, we identify the mistakes 1, 2, 3 and put it there. Histogram, frequency distribution. Trend chart, as we move forward along the time, we see what are the trends of those things. Okay, what are the trend of those things. Rule of 7 is the part of Rashid. It's the part of control chart. If consistently you are on the one side of the mean, this means there is no variation. There should be variation in your control chart. We need to look into that. So these are the cool tools of quality. I hope you remember them. Okay, let's go back to our main thing. So quality we were discussing. Then after the quality, we have quality metrics. Quality metrics, also known as KPI metrics, key performance index metrics. Like what are the things that we are going to measure in our project? It is KPI metrics or key performance metrics that we use to that. Vignesh, you are at YouTube, come to Zoom. Okay. Quality metrics, KPI metrics that we are going to use into that. Okay. Then procurement management plan. Procurement management plan is going to talk about how the procurement will happen. Who has the authority here? Now, Rashid, we have many conversation in the procurement topic. Here we are putting straightforward on the procurement authority. Who has the authority into that? Okay, how the procurement will be happening in the project, we are putting it. Then immediately responsibility. You see, procurement department is there written. Got my point? For example, his responsibility is scope, schedule, cost, quality to control, but making sure the deliveries are on time, making sure to select the vendors, they are their responsibility. Then we have some standard procurement documents. Then we have contract type. What are the contract types, by the way, we have? Let's discuss those, some of them. What are the contract type we have? Put in the chat box. What are the contract type we have? So contract types are classified depending upon whether your scope is fixed or your scope is variable. So let's say your scope is fixed. We are gonna go with I am 100% sure this is my scope. I'm gonna go with the firm fixed price contract where scope is fixed, quality is fixed, everything is fixed there. I know that's something. Okay, but in the same, if the scope is fixed, I want to give somebody incentive, I'm going to use fixed price incentive fee contract. Here I'm going to give incentive to somebody to complete it earlier. And if you feel that because of inflation, it can impact you or the other person, we are going to use fixed price, economic price adjustment contract. This has like petrol price, gold price, oil price inside it. Okay. So firm fixed price incentive fee, and economic price adjustment when your scope is 100% clear. If you are not clear about your scope, or the scope can be variable, then we have time and material. Time and material is used like, it's just like Uber. You can use it whatever you want. Okay, whatever you want. Okay, I want this much, but I may not be sure how much I want to have it. Time and material. Time and material is one of the most risky contract if you don't manage it effectively. For example, let's say you get an Uber and there's a traffic blockage and you stay in Uber, that bill can go very high. Okay. We also have, when the scope is not clear, cost reimbursement contract. Cost reimbursement is fixed price incentive fee, award fee. So what do? You pay the person, you reimburse him for the things he have done, plus you pay his fixed fee. Okay. For example, I take my car to a mechanic and he changed my oil. He changed my oil. That's the most simplest thing. Everybody does it, right? Put in the chat box. You do that. So he changed the oil, you pay him for the oil and his fixed fee. That is cost reimbursement fixed fee. But let's say you go to the mechanic shop and he's busy. So you say him, hey, can you do it? He said, I will do it after some time. But you are in hurry. You say, if you can do it right now, I'm gonna pay you fixed fee. That is a fee, his fee, the fee of the oil, you will reimburse him, and then you can give him some incentive fee. That is agreed. Okay, or if somebody did a good job, you can give him some award, just like a tip. Cost reimbursement, award fee. These are important contract. The same contracts are normally used in agile also. In predictive and agile, normally we use the same type of contract. We can use in agile cost per work package, cost per user stories, but normally these contracts are used in agile also. Okay, so I guess clear on the contract types. Then how we are going to do insurance, source selection criteria. One thing, you never share it with the, like, I would say that if you get a question, what is the one thing you never share with the seller? Is the source selection criteria. Source selection criteria is your thing. You don't want to share it with the seller. If you share it with the seller is gonna show you only those things. Okay. Source selection criteria. Then the assumptions and constraints we have, like how it is linked into that. Normally procurement management plan is made after scope, schedule, cost baseline. Because once our scope is clear, then I know what I can do in-house, what I can do outside. Okay, so it is made after that. Okay, so we identified in it already, risks are identified, WBS integration, how we are gonna measure the performance, it is mentioned into it. Okay, ji Shubham. Yes, Shubham.
Sir, just one question. When it is road source collection criteria, you are saying we should not share. But like when we do tenders with government and all, they show that what are their criteria, like whether their price or some, in-country value or this kind of things they share that on the basis of this, the
That's a
tenders
very
are
good,
going to be evaluated.
very good question. There is one thing that is called requirement. Okay, these are the things that must be present. These are the things that must be present. That's our requirement. We do it. When we say source selection criteria is my internal classification, how I'm gonna choose this. For example, last night I went to have a chicken zinger. Now I did not go to the KFC or I did not go to other. There was a another shop. I went there. Why? It was an halal shop. That was my source selection criteria. Right now, I want to. Everybody has their own source selection criteria. You can put into that. This is the price. This is the upper price. This is the time. This is the cost. All those things are the part of procurement statement of work. Okay, but how I'm gonna classify it, I'm not gonna share with them. I hope that. Please also identify risk on all.
Like you mean the weightage they will not share for the criteria.
Yes, you
Okay.
can say that. You can say that weightage also. Time and material is the most risky contract. As I mentioned, time and material is the most risky contract. I'm talking about for buyer. I'm a buyer. For me, time and material is the most risky contract. Let's end this for all because whenever you solve question, you get confused. Then there are cost reimbursement contract and firm fixed price has the minimum risk on us. Okay, so let's go forward. So now requirement management plan. Requirement management plans talks about how the requirements for the entire projects will be made, how you are gonna collect all the user stories, or you're gonna collect all the requirements, collect, analyze, categorize, document it, prioritize it, like every single thing, how you're gonna collect the requirement, analyze them, categorize them, document them, prioritize them. Everything about the requirement will be mentioned in the requirement management plan. Okay, once you use the requirement management plan to collect the requirement, then using requirement traceability matrix, which will have all the requirement, like what is the requirement, what is the priority of the requirement, category of the requirement, who gave the requirement, what is the objective of the requirement, WBS of the requirement, metrics of the requirement, validation, every single thing that we need to know about the requirement, we'll put it there. Am I clear to everybody? That is requirement traceability matrix. Then in the requirement documentation, we will put one thing, like what it could be, either we are putting the category of the requirement, right? What is the requirement? Who's the stakeholder? Category of the requirement, priority of the requirement, acceptance criteria, validation method. Acha, let's say you get a question in the exam. You get a question in the exam, and the question is this. The question is, how I'm gonna look into the acceptance criteria, how I'm gonna know, how do I validate my requirement. The option is requirement management plan, requirement documentation, requirement traceability matrix, and scope baseline. What would you answer? Let me rephrase the question. The client is not accepting the deliverable. How would you know that does it meets the requirement or not? Requirement management plan, requirement documentation, requirement traceability matrix, scope baseline. Only 4 people have given the answer. What about 42? Guys, what is scope baseline? What is scope baseline? By the way, I have a weak memory, I forget. So what is scope baseline? Agreed scope with the client. So client is saying he does not care about your requirement traceability matrix or requirement documentation. Scope baseline is the agreed scope of the project. That was a trick question. I showed you 2 documents and asked a different question, and you got tricked. Danis, Mavish, and everybody else. Whether scope baseline is the agreed scope of the project. Okay? Yes, Danis.
But is it not the case that then what you showed in the documentation on the, I think it was the last 2 columns, where you have the validation that is matching with the scope baseline, so you have like not doing something else, correct?
What is scope baseline?
As you said, that's the agreed scope with the customer. But when you do
No, wait,
the
wait.
document,
Let's go step by step. That is agree.
okay.
Scope baseline, we agree on that. Okay. Did we agree on requirement traceability metrics with the client?
No, it's an internal stuff.
Step by step. Step by step.
Yeah. Okay.
Step by step. Okay. So the client didn't agree to the requirement traceability metrics, right? That's our
Correct.
internal document. So which thing is more important to client? Which he agreed or which we have internally?
Absolutely what he agreed.
That's right. That's what it is.
Okay. Can I add something?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
No, I'm just because I was at the beginning. I had that with the scope baseline. What I said, you remember? You said no, it's not the scope baseline.
You
It's
said in agile. You said in agile. We were discussing in agile. At that time, we
correct.
scope baseline. I said no. That is in predictive.
Okay. In my mind, it was like when I have the scope baseline with the agreed with the customer. When I have the definition of done on my side, so I use like the stuff what I have like to validate that internally, and this is matching with the scope baseline because that's what the customer is saying. So the checklist I have, so everything is fine, should be matching with the scope baseline. This was in my mind, like when I.
You are right in analogy. You are right in analogy. When it comes to analogy, you are right. You are 100% right. But
But yeah,
for agile or predictive, okay?
yeah,
You can say that here into acceptance scope baseline is your acceptance criteria. How scope is different from scope in the project charter. Project charter has a high level scope, Saham. It's a high level scope. I want to make a house of 5,000 square feet with a swimming pool. Then scope baseline will have a detailed scope. How many square feet will be the swimming pool? What will be the colors of the lights you are going to use? How the water, like each and every single thing in detail will be in the scope baseline. Okay. Okay, let's go into that requirement documentation. Then we discuss requirement traceability metrics. Okay, this another thing. This will be for product. Requirement traceability metrics, requirement documentation, plus requirement management plan. We know that if we talk about the entire project, need assessment, business case, benefit management plan, initiation, planning, execution, closing, and operation. Okay, operation. This is an entire product life cycle. This is a project life cycle. Like product is project plus operation. So requirement management plan or requirement traceability will also have operational requirements that later on will be used. Okay. But then we filter it out using the scope management plan where we are going to discuss about how we are going to discuss scope, how we are going to make WBS. structure, WBS dictionary, how we are gonna do that. Okay, how the scope will be defined, how the deliverable will be defined, how we are gonna set the acceptance criteria. You see, what is included in the project, how we are gonna define, what are the project constraint, how we are gonna define what are how. Please note, all the plans talk about how. Okay, all planning, the entire planning process group means how we are gonna do something. Okay, so scope baseline, how the scope baseline will be measured, how the scope changes, interestingly, how the changes will happen in the project, deliverable acceptance, scope and requirement integration, everything will be there. Okay, so once we have that, then we make WBS, work breakdown structure, dividing the entire project into smaller things. The lowest thing is called work package. Okay, the big one is control account, then major deliverable. Then we discuss WBS dictionary. Every work package, this thing will be linked into the WBS dictionary. What does 1.3.2.2.2 means? Okay, the dictionary will define, okay, this means this activity, these many resources are needed for that. Just look at the how explanation is there. The name of the work package, what does it describe, how it is, which code of account it is linked to, what assumptions I have, does it have any milestone in it? What are the due dates? What are the activity I need to do for this? What are the resources I need? Any hours, rate, labor, like such a detail. And this goes here. And this becomes the part of scope baseline. What is your scope baseline itself? The scope baseline is combination of project scope statement, detailed scope of the project, WBS, and WBS dictionary. That is your scope baseline. Crazy how much. Yes. Then you make a schedule management plan. Like schedule management plan will define, are you gonna go with predictive or are you gonna do with agile? How you are gonna do? What tools you are gonna use? How much accuracy you are gonna have? Your threshold? How you are gonna do reporting? Right? It define your sequencing, finish to start, which one you are gonna do. How you are gonna estimate the resources. Let's talk about the estimation techniques. So how many estimation techniques are there and what are they? Please put in the chat box. What are the estimation techniques? Please put in the chat box. What are the estimation techniques? Ji, what are the estimation techniques? So let me share it in my wording one time. So there are estimation technique, analogous estimation that is 100% based on the past history. If you have done something in the past, let's say you completed a house in 6 months. Now, again, you want to make the same house with the same dimension. Everything is 100% based on the past. That is analogous estimation. Same as it was based in the past. Next is parametric estimation. Parametric is, it is again based in the past, but what do we have? We have a statistical relationship in between. If let's say it took me 1 hour to reach my office daily and it is 100 kilometers, today I have to go 200 kilometer or 50 kilometer. So I will identify the statistical relationship in between and use that. Both analogous and parametric are basically based on the past relationship, but we identify statistical relationship in parametric. Then we have bottom-up estimation. You move from bottom to up, 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 up. The most accurate estimation is there. It's a bottom-up estimation. You can only do bottom-up estimation when you have extreme detail about every single thing. Okay. Then we have 3-point estimation. That is optimistic, pessimistic, most likely. You take the average of them, optimistic, pessimistic, most likely divided by 3, or optimistic plus 4, most likely, plus pessimistic divided by 6. That is part analysis. All techniques are useful. But the most important thing to understand here is that if the exam says you are doing a top-down estimation or a high-level estimation, which estimation we do? Put in the chat box. Analogous estimation. If the exam says there's a statistical relationship, which one we use? Put in the comment. Parametric estimation. If the exam says we want a detailed and accurate, now which is the one? Bottom up estimation. And if we want to use like for Monte Carlo analysis, or if we want to have a multiple points, then it will be 3-point estimation. Another question. In the exam, there are two formulas for 3-point estimation. In the exam, if it is not mentioned, which formula you will use? Exam does not mention which formula you will use. Will you use optimistic, pessimistic, most likely divided by 3, like average, or optimistic plus 4 most likely plus pessimistic divided by 6? That is beta estimation. Now, that's an important question. Which one will you use? Yes, we will use beta estimation. Thank you, guys. Okay, let's move forward. So we have activity identification, how we estimate that, their duration. This is activity list of activities, what their description is, what is that thing, okay? Then activity attributes, just like WBS, it will have each and every single details. It will have, okay, just look at this. What is the activity ID? What is the predecessor? Which thing come before it? How it has a relationship between the predecessor? What is the successor? What comes after it? What are the leads and lag between them? Relationship between them. What are the skills required, effort required, where we are gonna do constraint, assumption, like such a detailed level activities into that. Then milestone list. What's a milestone? Milestone is a significant point in the project. Now this list is sometimes the most important list in uh, the project because the payment is linked to them. If you do this, you that. What do we call other 3-point calculation? So this is this one. If you are talking about Shubham, this one is triangular distribution. Optimistic, pessimistic, most likely this is triangular distribution. This one is called as beta distribution or PERT, program evaluation and review technique. Okay, whatever you are asking. So now we will estimate the duration, but as we discussed it, okay, activity, you see, activity duration estimates. We will do into that, how we are going to estimate it. Activity resource requirement, how you are going to estimate the resource requirement for that project. What are the requirements for that resource? Like I want to do this activity, what resources I will be needing for that. Then network diagram, right? Project schedule network diagram. So does logic exist in project schedule? This is the logic. No? This is the logic. If you look into that activity attributes, this is the logic here. Path, predecessor, successor, this is the logic. And then with the logic of that, we are making this network diagram with it. Okay. Then you get a project schedule. Project schedule is like you make on Microsoft project, what the schedule of the project will be, Gantt chart, something like that. You get a project schedule. Then we go to the cost management plan. So cost management plan will talk about the same thing which we discuss in predictive. We're going to talk about in the cost reporting formats, how we are going to do what estimation tool, how we are going to develop the project. Then we are also going to mention our cost baseline, scope baseline, schedule baseline, cost baseline. What do we call this analysis? What do we call this analysis? S curve. Okay, that is a curve. Earned value analysis. Earned value analysis. SPI, CPI. Okay, so let's discuss in this thing a little bit. Tell me what is SPI, what is CPI, and what it shows. Hmm. So when do we talk about schedule performance index and cost performance index? These are used in undervalue analysis when we want to measure how we are doing schedule wise or cost wise. Schedule performance index can also be known as schedule variance. It should be more than one. If it is schedule performance index, undervalue divided by planned value. If it is more than one, you are ahead of schedule. Less than one, you are behind schedule. Okay, similarly, if it's negative, you are behind schedule, positive, ahead of schedule, equal to zero, on schedule. We also have cost performance index, CPI, that is undervalue divided by actual cost. Greater than one is a good thing, less than one, bad thing. Equal to one, we are on the budget. And we can also use cost variance, earned value minus actual cost, zero on budget minus over budget, positive within the budget. Okay, then we have budget at completion. That's the entire cost baseline. We may have to calculate the new budget, that is estimate at completion, EAC. EAC, the formula of EAC, put in the chat box. EAC is equal to budget at completion divided by CPI, cost performance index divided. We can also use another formula that is very rare, but it is there. To complete performance index. To complete performance index is basically what the management use. Management says, can we even complete the work within that much budget? So to complete performance index is work remaining divided by fund remaining. Put in the comment box that if TCPI is less than one, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? TCPI less than 1. And TCPI is work remaining divided by cost remaining. Less than 1 mean you have more money, less work. It's a good thing. It's opposite of CPI. I like what you said, Arun. Okay. Okay. Then finally, once you have all the plans, you combine them into one plan. You define what your project life cycle would be. What are the key deliverables here? Okay. You integrate them into scope, schedule, cost. All the plans are done. You customize them. Now you get the project management plan. Okay. You combine them, what tools and technique, schedule variance, how we are going to review it. That's your entire planning. Are we clear about it? The entire planning. Anyone has any confusion? Anything? Just to give you the heads up, if anyone is saying that, sir, we will get the documents, you already have that. It's are in your files. Okay. At the end of the session, I will again show you how you can access them. Okay. Now we'll go to the execution part. Execution, planning has the most documents. Planning has the most document. It makes sense. The entire thing is there. The planning has the most plans and documents. Now, when we talk about in execution, the most important thing is your team charter. Somebody talked about the team charter. So here you get team charter. You make it in the execution when the team comes in the forming stage. What are the values and principle team is going to follow? Guidelines of the meetings, communication guidelines, how we are going to make a decision, how we are going to handle the conflict management, and then team sign it. Okay, this is a sample of the team chart. Sometime ground rule becomes a part of it, or you can have a separate document, but it is the part of it. Okay, then how you are going to status report template you have, how we are going to look into that, what we have done, what we haven't done, looked into that way. Team performance assessment, like this is a document where we look into that, how are we measuring on the task or not. RESI and RAM are part of resource management? No, RESI and RAM are a separate documents. They are separate documents, but they are not the part of resource management plan or requirement management plan. They are separate documents. Okay, team performance assessment. Then quality audit, when you want, this is kind of a quality report. What is a preventive? What is a corrective action? What's a defect repair? Can you put in the chat box what is the difference between them? Preventive, corrective action, and defect repair. I'll give you 10 seconds. What is preventive, corrective, and defect? What is preventive action, corrective action? So preventive action is something you identify the problem even before the problem happens. You identify it, immediately change the plan, improve it. Corrective action is basically you identify the problem has happened, but still you can get back to the plan. You can get back to the plan, you immediately handled it. Defect repair, now the problem has happened. Now it has become an issue. The problem has happened, the plan is changed. You need to update the plan, you need to change it. So that is your defect repair. And let me give you an example. Let's say if you have a car, you daily check your car for the tire pressure, things of those nature, right? That's a preventive action. We do preventive maintenance to make sure things are running smoothly. Okay, that is preventive action. Corrective action is basically like that. Okay, you see, you check your tire. Now your tire pressure is low. You immediately go to the mechanic, and now the mechanic fills it. Your tire is back to the work. You can go to your job. Defect repair is that your tire is punctured now. I hope that makes sense to you. Preventive action, corrective action, defect repair. Okay, then we do the quality audit, issue log. One of the most important document in execution. Any problem that occur, we identify it, we handled what the issue is, how it is going to impact the project objective, what is the urgency, who is responsible, when we have to handle it, status, date, and comments. Then decision log, how we are going to take the decisions. Change request, very important document. Who can request the change? Any person. You see here, when we say that here a person has formally requested the change, his name is there. Okay, we are what change is asking, why do he want the change, what is the justification of the changes. Okay, then the entire impact is happening, then the project manager does the impact on it. Okay, the project manager, how it will impact the scope and etc etc. This entire change, this goes to the change control board. Now here, if the change control board approve it or deny it, it goes there. A very important thing is there. When the change goes to change control board, the change goes to change control board, it must be, it must be already written into that. Impact must have been done. Bilal Masood, this is already with you. This is in the Google Sheet. I'll show you at the end. Yes, Shubham.
One question I asked actually a couple of days back on WhatsApp also, that whenever this change is required, so first do we do the analysis or we raise the change request
We
first?
raise the change request. We raise the
Because I have seen questions where there are the
there is
contradicting
a very rare
situations.
scenario. There's a very rare scenario, and there are two questions where, in that case, you have to do impact analysis. For example, somebody did something without even asking, okay, or that is immediate to do it. As a general rule, 90% of the time, you first raise the change request, then do the impact analysis. Only 10% of the time we do otherwise. That's a very rare scenario into that. Okay. Acha ji.
Okay. But like in the document you are showing, so here it is saying that once we do fill it all the documents and then we raise it, send it to the change control board for signature and approval.
Okay.
So,
Look here, look here. So the change request, the person who raised the change request, it is still here. This
okay.
change request has been raised. Now
Okay.
this part, project manager is doing. He is doing the
Okay. Okay.
impact analysis on scope, schedule, cost, all the thing. He does the impact analysis. After the impact analysis and the reason of it, okay, he gave it to the change control board. Now this is what the change control board is doing. This page. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Bring it up.
Understood.
I hope that makes
Thank
sense.
you.
Ji. Now you have the template, Nitraj. Everybody from batch 8 till now have that template. I'll show you. I'll show you. I have given it to you. I'll show you. Even if you don't have, I'll give it to you. This was execution. Okay. So Natranj and everybody. So let's open the batch 2 sheet. Okay. This is Natranj, your batch 2 sheet. Okay. Natranj, unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
You have this sheet, batch 2.
I will check it, sir, now.
No, you have that. Question answers, videos, slides. And here you go forward here. Initiation template, planning template, execution, monitoring, and closing. I'm taking all these templates from here. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Ji. Somebody raised the hand. Rashid sir? Ji sir.
Uh, Sir, I need to just want you to, can you elaborate the change mechanism in agile projects?
Yes, sure. So in Agile, all changes, whoever raised the change, right? All the changes goes directly to product owner. Okay. Product owner take that change and he put it into the product backlog. All the changes are put into directly product backlog. Okay. Then depending on that, it will be prioritized by high value, high risk. Okay. If we consider it's highly valuable, high risk, we will handle it accordingly. Okay, Rashid sir?
Sir, actually, I saw many questions in that. I was confused in that. Sometimes he is asking correct option is to go to the change control board.
It's a
I
hybrid.
was very confused why
Yes,
we
we
in
are.
hybrid in agile, in a high project is hybrid, but the portion we are doing is agile portion, like iteration, and there's something request customer want urgent change. So we
Okay.
put option that it is go to change control board.
That's a very good question. Unless stated that in the first line, you are working in an agile project. Unless stated that you are working in an agile project, you will consider all the project as hybrid project, which means for all the changes, you have to go to change control. Okay, sir? For all the changes, you have to go to change control.
Even in iteration side also we need to go.
It depends on the question. If you can bring on the question, we can review that question again. If you have,
Means he say you are doing a project and customer want immediate on sixth iteration and your customer want these changes, and I choose another like go to the product and reprioritize like these options. He say no, change, go to change control board.
I can look
But
into.
I think his project is hybrid, but the section phase we are doing is
If you think,
iterative.
Rashid Saab, if you think that project is hybrid, then go for change control board, sir. If you think, if you are 100% sure it's agile, then don't go to change control. Okay? Okay. Yes. Prioritization is done. No, prioritization is done by customer and the product owner. It's responsibility, Shubham, or product owner. Who approves the change request in agile? Product owner. Okay. So then we go to monitoring and control. In monitoring and control, we have to do reporting. This is kind of the reporting we have. Like what is a variance? We discuss SPI, CPI that comes here, right? How preventive action, corrective action that comes here, funds repeat. What do we call this report? This is a work performance report. You know that, na? Work performance data. What is the difference between work performance data, work performance information, and work performance report? What's the difference between? What's the difference between work performance data, work performance information, and work performance report? So work performance data is the lowest form of the information or communication. You get it directly from the execution. Like scope department will tell you we have done this much. Schedule department will tell you this is the status of the deliverable. So you get that directly from the execution. Then that data goes to the entire teams. Every team, scope, schedule, cost, quality, procurement, risk will take that data and compare it with their plan. They will compare it with this plan and then they will generate their individual communication report, which we called as work performance information. This is better than data because they have compared it with their plan, but this is only about their own individual. Then all the work performance information goes to the project manager. He combines them into one and we get work performance report, which then he will share to everybody according to communication management plan. So data, low level, information, level one, and report is the best level. Okay. So this is work performance report for you. It is showing you all the impact here. Overall budget, accomplishment, etc., etc. Risk occur. Earned value analysis, EV, which we discussed, how it worked into that. Variance analysis. Acceptance form. This is what when the client says the client has accepted the deliverable. Okay. This is acceptance criteria, validation, sign off. We are getting sign off from the client. Okay. Audit. If you want to do audit of risk, this we will use, this is the format. Audit is basically checking the effectiveness of process. Are we following the process or not? Where the audit is happening, which processes that is happening. Okay. Contract status report, we want to check the contractor how they are doing it. And then finally the last one will be closing. Okay, the last one will be closing. Okay, so in closing, sometime we do the procurement audit for, we also do the procurement audit just to update the sellers, how the sellers are, what worked well, what worked bad, because it will go back to the lesson learned register and the procurement criteria. Once the audit is done, we do the contract closeout. Contracts can be closed accordingly, lesson learned registered. It can be as detailed as you can make, as detailed about every single topic, risk, quality, schedule, then the project closeout, how the project is closed out, and the report is shared to everyone. Okay, then operational, how the team, it's your job as a project manager to make sure that they are ready for the project or not. You see, have planned projects, equivalent created, have planned, documented all the questions. Is the team ready for that or not? Is the team ready for that or not? These are all the processes in the form of initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, and closing. Now we will go through like one of the documents also, one page where we will go through all of these things. Anyone has any questions? Anyone? Okay, G. Dennis.
I have my question is you asked before the 3 point or the estimation types when it's not in the exam. My son just came in. What was the what do we use there? Is it the beta or the PERT estimation when it's not mentioned, or the standard one? I would call it.
Depending on the requirement, what do we need? If the exam, it
No.
is not, if in exam, if it is not mentioned, in
Yeah.
exam, it is not mentioned, you will use beta or part. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Now we will have like let's take 10 minutes break. After the 10-minute break, we are gonna discuss this. This we have already discussed the entire thing, but we are gonna go through this thing. Okay. One more time so that you know when the things come, right? And how the things are. Okay. If answer would only, why we use the mention one. If the answer analogous will be used when it is when you need a high level data, you are not sure, you don't have any idea what to use, we'll use analogous. When you are using statistical relationship, parametric. When you have detailed information, bottom up. When 3 point, then 3 point will be used. Clear? So let's have a 10-minute break. 10 minutes is okay, or 5 minutes you want? Of course, you will say 10 minutes. Let's have a 10-minute break and we come back. That please. So coming back to the point, let's discuss this thing. We will have a quick discussion on this and then we'll see if we can solve some questions. So I'm going to go through one by one and see have we discussed them or anyone is not clear. Yeah. Because they are kind of interesting. Why can I do that? Okay. So scope management plan, we discussed, it defines the scope of the project, how the process will occur. Requirement management plan, schedule, cost, quality, resource, communication, risk, procurement, stakeholder, change management plan, talks about the changes in the project. Configuration management plan talks about the changes in the project. Scope baseline, uh, schedule, cost. When we combine all these three baselines, we get a performance measurement baseline. Okay, project lifecycle description, it will define how you are gonna select which project lifecycle and which development approach you are gonna use, cycle wise, incremental, iterative, how. Okay, these 18 plans, are we good on them? Everybody, are we good on them? Yes, Shubham.
What was the specific difference between this scope management plan and the scope baseline?
Scope management plan defines how the scope process will happen, how you are going to make the scope baseline, how you are going to track the changes in the scope baseline. Scope baseline talks about the scope. Okay. Similarly, schedule baseline is the what are the schedule of the project. Baseline is the schedule. Schedule management plan will talk about the cost of that. Okay.
So basically, we use the scope management plan to prepare a scope baseline and a schedule management plan to prepare the schedule. Like that.
You can say that.
Okay.
Okay. Any
Thank you.
changes in the project will be handled aside by change management plan. But if there are changes in the product, the changes in the product will be handled by the configuration management plan. Okay, configuration management plan. So we discussed activity attributes, we discussed activity list, assumption log. We discussed today basis of estimate, why we are estimating it, what is the reason behind it, are we getting expert judgment, focus group, change log, cost estimates like analogous parameter, how you are going to estimate it, cost forecast, we do the trend analysis used to forecast how we are going to use. Similarly, duration estimate, issue log, lesson learned register, milestone list, resource assignment, whom you have given which assignment, project calendar, how you are going to do communication, schedule, your project schedule network diagram, project scope statement, project team assignments, quality control measurement. When you get quality results, you get a document that are quality control measurement, quality control, quality metrics, quality reports, requirement documentation, requirement traceability metrics, resource breakdown structure, resource calendar, resource requirements, risk register, risk report, schedule data. Like when you make a schedule, you get a data. The like work performance data in the terms of schedule is called schedule data. The forecast, stakeholder register, team charter. Team charter ground rules can also be test and evaluation document. How you are going to test them into it. These are the 33 documents that we use. Anything that is not clear in these documents, in these 33 documents. I'm going to send this picture to you guys also. This picture is important just to review it. Knowing it can help us. With these documents and then Agile, I guess there is no other documents that is the quality matrix. If you can see quality matrix we made in planning, it's a KPI matrix, Zaki. It talks about what are the KPIs we need to measure into that. Requirement documentation versus requirement traceability. We discussed that even. Said Khan, when we were discussing requirement traceability matrix has all the information from start to end, whereas requirement documentation classify as one thing or two. Yes, Dennis.
I have one question, like not regarding this. Everything clear? I mix. It seems there is a misunderstanding from me. Agile versus predictive. So is it possible, like all the things you described, like to put it in a nutshell in 2-3 minutes, like Agile, like for example, you said change control board is not used in Agile. There, it's differently. Is it like you can put it in a nutshell 2-3 minutes?
This is the only
Agile
thing.
versus predictive, like what is not used in all the things you just said,
Okay.
if that is possible.
The thing is that when it goes back to the most basic thing, when to use agile, when to use predictive. Okay. When to use agile, when to use predictive. If we are not clear, we will straightforward use hybrid project. Okay, that is the first thing. So when to use agile, when the question says it is an agile project. When the question says it's a predictive project, we use predictive. Otherwise, every single question is hybrid questions, which mean you need change control board for change request. Okay, which means you will use change control board for change request. As simple as I can put into that. You will use change control board for change request. Secondly, a small difference where you are actually getting confused is definition of done, acceptance criteria, requirement traceability matrix, and scope baseline. This is the language of predictive. This is the language of agile. Okay, your acceptance criteria is your scope baseline. Okay, now that was your confusion, right, Dennis? That was the pain. pinpoint into that.
I couldn't bring it together. I was like, yeah, okay, thank you.
Now it's clear? Okay. Now, one of the most important thing is to look into the question, what the questions are saying, and looked into that way. Now, before we move forward, let's see. I wanted also to see your status, guys. So batch 4, I wanted to see your status also. Everybody, I am gonna request every single person that my team even said it to me. I was looking into that. Your tracker sheets are not updated. Shubham, I will come to you. Just give me 1 minute. Please update your tracker sheets. Many of the people have not updated their tracker sheet. So let's go with the Dennis. Dennis, is it updated from your side?
Yes, it is updated. I am doing like invested
You need
a
to
lot of time
complete.
in.
You need to
Pardon?
complete the entire. You need to complete.
Yes, absolutely. But I put a lot of time in it. I'm on track. No worries. Not on track, but yeah.
Okay. Ramdeen Santosh. Shubham, you only did one topic. Is it updated for you?
Sir, just the mind map is remaining for a stakeholder. I've completed 2.
Shubham, what are you doing here? It's been more than 1 month here.
Alright.
This is
Just our schedule was completely hacked up right now. I will
whatever
do
it
this,
is. Fix your.
I will catch up within this week. I will cover up all the most of the topics.
This is very important for everybody. Fix the schedule. 1 or 2 or whatever you can. That's your thing. If you say I can give 2 hours, fix it. Okay, Shubham, please fix it. Farooq, Usama, everybody, fix your schedule.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
your schedule. That's very important. That's very critical to everyone. Now comes the